And we're back, Max. Preview. How excited you are for the return of Fight Island this weekend? Looking forward to it.
Yeah, you could not. I wouldn't have expected a main event this exciting for the UFC's return, but it is an absolutely phenomenal one. Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. Not the deepest card going down from there, but all the same, you starve me of UFC entertainment for 3 weeks, and I'll be excited for whatever you put on pretty much. And that's how I'm feeling. Gonna jump right into the breakdown. I'm gonna talk about the last 4 fights on this card. Those are the ones that catch my eye. And lead with the main event, Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. Now, I talked about this a week, 2 weeks ago, but what you have in this fight is someone who's looking to prove themselves to be at the top of the division and say, even though I've lost 2 times to the champ, I'm still the best guy and the most deserving of a shot. And that's not something you prove in a single fight. It's something you're going to have to do over multiple fights. And it's one of the most challenging things you can do. Return to a title shot when the UFC has little to no incentive to matchmake for that fight. You saw TJ Dillashaw do it, although steroids, maybe or EPO, you put a damper on that. You've seen Robert Whittaker attempt to do it, but it's really, once the champ loses, you rarely see them get back in there. And it's because they have to go through a murderer's row to get back there. And Calvin Kattar is the first in what could be that murderer's row for Max Holloway. He has, through a great 2020, come and impressed as one of the top featherweights. I mean, this guy's star has been on the rise for a long time, starting with that crazy fight of the night, fight of the year against Shane Burgos. He had a setback against Renato Moicano. Came back, took a short notice opportunity against Zabit Magomedsharipov, who is another guy who has just been known as one of the top featherweights for quite some time now. But he took that fight on short notice, and he has a great argument that if that was a 5-round fight, he'd have been able to outlast Zabit and get the win. And then he put together a great 2020, like I said, with the knockout of Jeremy Stevens, and then a decisive, excellent 5-round performance against the rising Dan Ige. So in terms of matchup, I'm not too sure what I'm going to see out of Max Holloway, and that's where I'll start. His style at what you might call his prime, the Jose Aldo, the Brian Ortega, even the Dustin Poirier fight, though he did lose that, I kind of think of it like a moderate stream of water flowing at you. It's not the hardest. It's not rapids. It doesn't push you away right away. You feel it. It's pushing you, but you can swim up it. You can stand and resist it. But you go all out. You give everything you have to get all the way up there, and then you're out of gas. That stream's going to push you right back. You're taking your time one step at a time, and you take a break, that stream's going to push you right back. It's gentle but unrelenting pressure. He uses his height and ranginess for the featherweight division, his great footwork to stay very loose, light on his feet, always moving forward, daring you to try and hit him where he's going to get out of the way most of the time. And on the few shots you land, his chin has always held up. And that's cemented by fantastic cardio. You just never really seen him get tired, and a big part of that is because of how he controls his punches to throw like a range of different power. Like, he's just testing you in the first couple rounds, 60% on his shots, until they really start to find home and he knows it's time to sit down. And I'd be criminal if I didn't also mention that style is cemented by absolutely top of the division takedown defense and scramble back to his feet ability, which I don't really expect to see a factor in this fight. But if you're breaking down Max Holloway's game, you have to add the ground defense because it's superb. Calvin Kattar, in many ways, is a similar fighter, a hands dominant striker with great sense of range, great timing, great accuracy, and what we saw in the Dan Ige fight was he's also a great 5-round fighter, though different from Holloway. The Dan Ige fight, I was really impressed by Kattar. What he did essentially was Dan being a very explosive fighter. Even though he's a boxer, he kept it at kickboxing range where Ige kind of had the advantage to land kicks, but it let Kattar read Ige really well. It let him, every time Ige looked to explode forward with hooks, Kattar was able to get his guard up, get out of the way, never get in trouble, and then make Ige pay on the poorly timed explosions or ones that left him in a bad spot, and then pressure him with the jab when they were at kickboxing range. And after 3 rounds, that was kind of just money in the bank that had Ige too tired, too hurt, too worn down to put up much of a fight, and then Kattar closed beautifully. So the first couple rounds are going to be really interesting in terms of who is going to come out and lead. If I also watched Holloway Volkanovski 2 in preparation for this, and you saw a different Max Holloway from what I described, and I'm not sure how much of that is a change in his game and how much of that was just Volkanovski. Volkanovski, the main credit I give him in that fight is his movement in 8 directions, like forward, laterally, and diagonally. He could kind of seamlessly move in all 8, and it just, Max was never able to get set and just start letting loose those flowing combos that break down his opponents. But he also didn't spar for that fight, so I don't know if there's a change in his mental game where he said, I don't want to be this take a punch to give 2 punches style anymore. I want to be a little more defensively minded and win my fights that way. And I mean, he dropped Volk twice in that fight, so I'm not going to say that doesn't work for him. But there is less finishing threat, I would say, in contrast to his previous style, which the other fight I watched for this was the Dustin Poirier one, because I think that is probably the closest fight you could watch that's gonna like get you ready for this, because the boxing of Kattar is similarly sharp to the boxing of Poirier. I mean, you'd say Poirier has more of a jiu-jitsu game, a little more wrestling, and both can kick but don't do it too often. And the way Poirier won that fight was by picking his moments. When Holloway moved forward on him, he let Holloway win the little moments, get the jabs off, get the feints, and then he just chose his moments to explode and land. And when he landed hard and clean. And those big moments were able to overpower the little moments from Holloway. And I kind of see Kattar looking to do the same thing. He's got the timing, he's got the accuracy. The power's interesting because that fight was at lightweight, so Poirier had a power advantage that Kattar probably won't, but that Jeremy Stephens knockout was beautiful. There's no doubt Calvin Kattar has power in his hands, but Max Holloway has that Polynesian chin, and I mean, you've seen with BJ Penn, once it goes, but until it goes, it's adamantium. So who's going to dictate the range? Is Kattar going to be able to use the kickboxing range he used against Ige that Volk kind of successfully used against Holloway, so that Kattar can stay out of Holloway's range? Is Holloway going to put on the boxing range and pressure that he put on against Poirier, Ortega, Aldo, where he takes a few, will Kattar be able to stay composed enough to deal with 5 rounds of that pressure and not gas out, not get tired, not get swept downstream? And what is Max Holloway's style gonna look like? Is he going to be more kickboxy? I mean, one of his drops on Volkanovski was with a head kick. He has a beautiful spinning back kick to the body that he throws. So maybe his game is evolving to a more kickbox style. Maybe he's looking to take a few less punches. Those are the questions I have. My keys to victory. The one other wild card I'll throw in there is Calvin Kattar has ferocious ground and pound. I don't really see him trying to take down Max Holloway, and if he tries, I really don't see it working. But the element of surprise might be the single best takedown threat there is. Even the best. I mean, John Jones's first given up takedown was against Alexander Gustafsson, because not against Daniel Cormier, the wrestler, because he did not see that coming from Gustafsson, and Gustafsson did it beautifully. So Kattar absolutely could take down Holloway if he picked a perfect moment and just Holloway didn't see it coming. More likely, I can see a scrambly stagger trip type scenario. Either way, if it goes to the ground, Calvin Kattar, he knocked out Jeremy Stevens with a vicious elbow, and some of the ground strikes he tried to hit Ige with were absolute good night Maria bombs. There was a moment where Ige went down and Kattar just didn't hesitate. He stepped in and used his full body, all the range. That Holloway has just been so unchallenged, unpunished on the ground, that if I was going to pick a wild card factor, it would be there. But it's pretty unlikely it plays that way. I think Calvin Kattar's path to victory is essentially the same as what Dustin Poirier did. You are not going to be able to put the pressure on Holloway for 25 minutes. I just don't think there's a fighter alive, except maybe Tony Ferguson, who can outlast Holloway in a firefight. And I don't think you really want to take that. He's going to lead, but you have to win the big moments that take away all the little things Holloway does. Stagger him when you can. Don't get too lost in trying to put him out, because you will more likely gas yourself than put him out. Win in every mistake Holloway makes with his pressure, make him pay, but don't go any further than that. And then for Holloway, it's control the fight. Control the range. Don't let him be dictating that. Keep him on his back foot. Ige's most success in the fight was body shots. I think Kattar was very aware of the threat to his head, and so his body shot defense was a bit lacking due to the way he defended. Dan Ige is Hawaiian, so I imagine he and Holloway have had a bit of contact, a bit of talking for this fight. And Max Holloway has great body work ability when he wants to. So I can see that culminating for him quite nicely. It's such an exciting main event. Top 5 featherweight main events are fantastic. I'm so happy we got this one. So next on the card, co-main event, Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. We got the retirees tournament division. Both these guys past 35, both former title challengers for the UFC welterweight, or maybe it was an interim. I'm pretty sure this is a rematch. They fought years and years ago. I don't have a ton to say about this fight. If you are a longtime UFC fan, you know everything there is to know about Carlos Condit and Matt Brown. And if you are not, you don't really need to, because neither of these fighters are going anywhere. They're both been sticking around the UFC, both had the ups and downs when they face top level talent. It's been downs, but when the UFC gives them matchups, they can win. They've won. So they've tried to make this fight a couple times, several, I think, and it's fallen through. It's finally happening. And yeah, I mean, I think Condit's probably going to walk away with it. Just he's going to be a little sharper, taking a little less damage, and was the better fighter the first time around. I think that'll hold true. Should be fun. Hopefully not heartbreaking, as sometimes happens when you watch these old vets get in the cage. But yeah, I mean, this is a matchup for the 2012-2013 UFC fans, so I hope they enjoy it. I will, but I'm more excited about this next fight. Santiago Ponzinibbio returns to the octagon against the Leech Li Jingliang. Ponzinibbio, big question mark in the division. He's looked great although I know people will forever be upset with him for the eye pokes against Gunnar Nelson, but his last fight was over 2 years ago against Neil Magny, who has since gone on a bit of a tear in this division and is headlining next Wednesday against Michael Chiesa. But Ponzinibbio made it look easy against Magny. He mixed up leg kicks, striking, for a vicious performance culminating in a finish. And here's a guy who could make a run at the top. People have known he has that talent and that ability. His game is at that level, and he's had over 2 years off. Injuries played a part in that, so it's not like he's been training the whole time. But if he's the fighter I think he is, then he's of course gotten much better in that time. What makes this fight interesting to me is his opponent has 2 losses, and they're both through wrestling. So he hasn't lost in the UFC to a striker yet, which the fight, he was ranked for a brief amount of time, and that was earned based off a crazy brawl, gritted out and come out stronger win against a top welterweight striker. So he's been there, done that, and managed to outlast his opponent and pull out the win. I can see this fight turning into like absolute fireworks if the Leech gets his way and manages to make it not let Ponzinibbio get comfortable in his range with his kicks. And I think the winner is probably suited if they can get together and fight again in the next 3-4 months to again start making a tear towards the top of that welterweight division, especially if it's Ponzinibbio. This one should be, or this is the fight I'm second most excited for on this card. Last fight, Joaquin Buckley, unfortunately not making the walk against James Krause. He'll be going up against Alessio de Chiricio, who, I'm going to say it, this is a gimme fight for Buckley. Chiricio is on a 3-fight losing streak. He has not won a fight since 2018. He has a decision or a win by knee in 2017, but below 500 record in the UFC. I think this is just a case of Buckley wanting to fight and the UFC finding a matchup for him, which is great for your development. Like, that's just get in the cage, get the time, get the experience, put together some wins. I mean, the one thing for Alessio is he hasn't been knocked out. His only stoppage loss is by triangle. So he's tough. He's not going to go away easily. So it'll be that much more impressive if Buckley can make that happen. And yeah, I mean, it's Buckley's fight to lose. He had a great knockout last time out. You put another one together, and then you've suddenly got 3 knockouts in a row. Your name is not entirely unfamiliar to the casual household viewer. The people who watch like the Sports Center top 100 highlights of the year know who you are. So if you've got 3 knockouts in a row, you're situated to go good places. So that's Buckley's opportunity to do so. We'll see if he can pull it off. And yeah, I mean, the rest of the card, it's not, honestly, I know like 2 or 3 of these names. I think we've got some more Dana White Contender Series debuts. The UFC's booked 3 fights in the span of a week, so the talent's going to run a bit thin. I'll be watching, and I will give my recaps of whatever fights on here stand out, but I think I can wrap it for now. So
It's a good little taster, right, to satiate you before we get to the big exciting fights that are going to be happening at the end of the month.
Yeah, you're tuning in for the main event. There's going to be a lot of UFC in the next 7 days, so maybe you don't want to watch 15 straight hours, and or not straight hours, but cumulative hours, and it's okay to like skip the prelims on some of these. That's probably the model the UFC is thinking, and then the hardcores like me are going to tune in whatever they fill the card with. So I guess it's working out for them fine. All right, that wraps up this Combat Corner, and we'll be right back to talk some basketball.